Welcome to a very special pitch boxing episode. Myself, Martin Theobald, and with me, pleasure to have Dmitriy Salita. How are you, Dmitry?
I'm great. Good to be on.
Excellent, man. Thank you very much for your time. In a time where women's boxing is as prominent as it's ever been, as high profile as it's ever been, you're somebody who's very, very involved in the whole side of it. So it seemed like a great opportunity to chat to you about how the sport's growing, how you've been involved in the growth, and where it's going to. So can I start off kind of back to your origins? I mean, as a fighter, people will hopefully know your background, and you fought Amir Khan, and but you were a very successful fighter outside of that, kind of in your own right. But then the promotional side, you've worked in both men's and women's, haven't you, over the years?
Yes, I have.
I go back to Jarrell Miller's debut, for instance. You were around there, weren't you? After one fight, I think you kind of took him on. Which do you prefer, men's or women's boxing? Start there.
There really is no difference. I prefer fights and events that move the needle, that take the sport to the next level, that have social change and social empowerment. And Claressa Shields is a very unique athlete, a generational athlete. And 20 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about her great achievements. She's going to go down in history as one of the greatest athletes of our generation, like Pele, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, etc. She's one of a kind, and I'm very grateful to have worked with her and to approach this huge sporting event. Her fight with Savannah Marshall, which I believe is going to happen sometime in the very near future.
We're going to come on to the details of that hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm.
What do you prefer working in? Is it easier to make women's big fights than it is, say, men's big fights, do you think?
Great question. So let me just take you back. I first heard about Claressa when I was reading the weekend edition of the Wall Street Journal. This was before 2016 Olympics, and had her biography. Had this wrote it. It said that she won a previous Olympic gold medal, all different amateur titles. She's from Flint, Michigan. And I thought to myself, it was when Hillary Clinton was running for president here in the United States. So, the socially, I felt that she was the right woman at the right time. And before ever meeting Claressa, I already spoke with network executives at HBO and at Showtime about if they heard about her, about putting her on. And I thought to myself, out of the Olympic Games, this is the best prospect coming out of the 2016 Olympic Games, because there could be another Mike Tyson, there could be another Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather. I mean, they're great athletes and they're incredible and they're unique, but the impact and the power that Claressa Shields has is unmatchable. And the things that she's done is incredible. So my first fight with Claressa was after her pro debut. It was her second professional fight. And in that fight, she was the main event on Showtime, on Showbox. And she headlined in a venue that has never been exposed to boxing before, an MGM Grand Casino in downtown Detroit. And this was the first time that a woman, in the history of the sport, first time that a woman was a main event on premium cable network television. And a couple of months after that, Katie Taylor fought on TV, and Cecilia Brækhus and other great women fighters started getting the exposure that they deserve, and also the pace started to go up. So Claressa's goal obviously has been to be the best, to be the GOAT, but it's also been but in that means raising the sport of women's boxing to the next level, not just herself, but all different fighters around her, and not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And she's been very outspoken about many of these things. And the question that you've asked, is it easier to make fights for men or for women? So it all depends on the fighters. Claressa told me from the first time that I met her, she said, Dmitry, make the biggest and the best fights. And in her pro debut, she fought Franchon Cruz, who's one of the best women fighters in the world now, world champion. In her fourth professional fight, she challenged for the WBC super middleweight world title against a fighter who had more than 3 times the fights that she's had, and she's won in a spectacular fashion. So, and then she fought Christina Hammer, and she fought Hannah Gabriels, and she's fought so many champions, and every one of her fights has really been a historic or her historic event. And it is because of her success, I really believe, that women's boxing has experienced the growth that it has. And obviously, there's a lot of great fighters and a lot of great stories and a lot of commonalities. But Claressa is very unique and one of a kind. And and the fact that she went to UK in her last fight and is in the UK now, promoting the fight with Savannah Marshall, and that she's willing to go to the UK, to the homeland of Savannah, to avenge her only loss as an amateur, really speaks volumes. And it takes that kind of athlete who's so talented, who's so brave, and who understands her place in history to raise the sport to the next level. And that is what Claressa is doing.
And something you touched on there about Claressa's ability to not just grow herself, but to grow the sport of women's boxing as a whole. When she fought Hannah Rankin, Hannah's somebody that I know, relatively well, but Hannah, from my understanding, has stayed in contact with Claressa since they fought, and they've, Hannah speaks of her as a friend nowadays as much as anything else. And Hannah's gone on to become a world champion in her own right. And I think without that support of somebody like Claressa, she would have, not to say she wouldn't have got those opportunities, but she probably wouldn't have had the faith in herself to be able to go on and do it.
So Hannah Rankin is an incredible lady, one of my favorite people. She's a great person and a great fighter. And we had a fight on Claressa's cards after that fight. And she's been to camp here. So yes, her and Claressa have a real friendship. And when she goes to the UK, she goes to train at her gym, and her team. And Hannah is wonderful people, and very grateful for that relationship. And obviously, as you see, Claressa is all for raising the sport of boxing and women's fights to the next level. She's friends with Franchon Cruz. And you can see that on social media, they constantly, praise and support one another. She's friends with Michaela Meyer. She's friends with so many different female fighters. There is no competition. It's a common goal of raising the sport to the next level. However, when she gets into the ring and you're opposite of her, she's going to do everything she can to make sure that she comes out on top. So there is no conflict between supporting and respecting and admiring fellow fighters, and also, but when you get in the ring, possibly with one of them, the competitive spirit takes over, and you just want to prove yourself to be the best in that particular situation.
Not to fast forward too much, but should Claressa and Savannah eventually meet in the ring, do you foresee that they would have that respect and friendship afterwards, as Claressa has done with other opponents? Or is there too much water under the bridge that's gone?
Yeah, I think this one may be a little bit different. These two, I think, have genuine dislike for one another and respect, I think, but dislike. And it's a great fight because two of them are really from different countries, from different backgrounds, different cultures, just different things coming together. This was beautiful because it makes it a true world title unification. And both are not shy about their chances to win, and which is going to make it a very exciting promotion. And we're so glad and blessed that Sky is behind this fight, because these fighters are going to get the exposure that they need. And it's going to be such a mega event. I believe this is going to be one of the greatest and one of the biggest sporting events overall of 2022, and one of the big fights that we're going to remember decades from now.
And you mentioned about Claressa's willing to come over and help promote the fight. She's been over now to fight herself. She's been over when Savannah's fighting. She seems to be one of the few people that really gets self-promotion as a boxer. Is that something that you've kind of helped her understand, or is it something that's entirely natural for Claressa to be able to promote herself?
It's pretty natural for Claressa. I mean, she's well-spoken. She understands what you need to do to build a big fight. And she's very genuine and very honest about what she feels. And she expresses that in interviews on social media. She's very real. You can't, what you see is what you get, which is really beautiful. And again, Claressa's from Flint, Michigan, a very challenged place in the United States. She still lives there, and she's a walking role model. She walks in those streets, and kids that have different challenges see what she came from and what she's accomplished. And she's one of the most famous athletes in the United States. And the fact that she's in her community and people get a chance to see it is really incredible and really beautiful. And I'm very honored and happy to be involved with her growth and her career, and with this mega event that's going to come up here in the near future with Savannah Marshall.
And you've mentioned a few times during some of that around the kind of social and community side of things that Claressa does, which there are some things that almost go unnoticed, like when she had her hair dyed blue, and that was in reference to the water issue of Flint, Michigan. How important is it for her to be able to, you've referenced it about raising women's boxing, but raising everything within her community, raising everything as a person who's a role model, and she has those opportunities to do it?
Very important. She always did it. She did it before she was a superstar that she is now. She has summer camp where she donates her time and some money to girls in the community, the girls and boys in the community. She does a lot of great programs and a lot of help in the community, and also obviously throughout the country. But she is definitely a role model and really a symbol of success, and shows people that if you believe in yourself, she's a religious lady. If you believe in God and you believe in and you work hard, you can accomplish great things. And Claressa has done what nobody has ever, no man or woman have ever done in the history of the sport of boxing, which is really incredible. And she came from a very challenging city, a very challenging background. Every day she had to make a choice. I'm going to be great. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the gym. And she had a vision of what it was going to be before anybody knew that it even existed. And now, I'm doing an interview with you. I'm in the United States. You're in the UK, and we're talking about Claressa. It's really incredible. She's a true, real hero, and she's coming to get all the gold when she fights Savannah Marshall this summer.
Do you ever worry?
We hope this summer.
Yeah. Do you ever worry when Sky put her and Savannah kind of next to one another and start asking questions that it might just spark off and they'll go at one another? Or are you comfortable that they're both controlled enough and they can both make the right decisions in that environment?
Oh yeah, Claressa. I mean, she's not gonna let nobody put their hands on her. I don't know Savannah Marshall, but she seems to be in control and respectable, in the context of that situation. I was not worried about anything like that happening. It's great. I think it's great promotion that they got a chance to see each other. They got a chance to stand next to each other, because as a fighter, when you stand next to somebody, there's a certain energy that you absorb, and you can kind of start making plans for the fight. So it's very healthy for Claressa to have experienced it, and I think this is just the start of what will be an incredible build up to the fight.
Does Claressa ever reference back to their amateur fight? And it's well documented, Savannah's the only person to have beaten her through her amateur and pro careers. Does Claressa, and she mentioned it the other day about this girl talks about something that happened when we were teenagers. That's a long time ago. Does it have any mental impact upon her, or is she completely, she's let that pass and now it's a different phase and she's ready to go again?
I don't think that it has any impact on her, but she does want to avenge it. And obviously that's why we're going through what we're going through and going to the UK so that Claressa can get that opportunity. One of the things that I find interesting, and just looking on BoxRec, and it's become really a great tool for seeing fighters' professional and amateur career. I think Savannah had 63 wins in the amateurs with 0 knockouts. She had no knockouts, 0 knockouts. And I would have to believe that many of the ladies that she's fought weren't that great, because women's boxing, especially back in those days, was just kind of coming on. And as a professional, is she 12-0 with 10 knockouts? She has 10 knockouts and such incredible power. So, gotta wonder where that power came from. It's just interesting to see. And she certainly scored a very impressive knockout in her fight with Famke Hermans. Very, very, very impressive and very powerful, especially in women's boxing. You don't see things like that. So just interesting to see what kind of exercise or what she's been doing with having no knockouts as an amateur to being a knockout artist. Tommy Hearns like in the pros.
Do you think that Peter Fury influence in her training camp is helping?
Well, Peter Fury and the whole Fury family have great boxing minds, and they're very good trainers and good boxing people. A lot of respect to them. They certainly helped her, but I want to know what kind of strength and conditioning she's doing to get that many knockouts.
No further comment, Dmitry. How did the link up between Sky Boxer and Claressa come about? Because it was almost over in the UK. I don't think we were expecting it. When Boxer made the announcement of their stable of fighters, I remember looking through the list of who they've signed, and you think, oh yeah, there's Savannah Marshall, Claressa Shields. Like, I wasn't anticipating she would get signed up to a UK promoter at the time. So how did that come about?
So we've been trying to make the Savannah Marshall fight for a long time. And then we've heard that Matchroom and Sky were not doing business anymore. And then we've heard that Savannah and Matchroom were no longer together, and that she was with Sky. So I reached out to Sky. I've know some people there, and I was told that they have an exclusive deal with Boxer, and we struck a deal with the whole goal to land a fight with Savannah Marshall. The whole purpose of the deal is to land a fight with Savannah Marshall. So we did a co-promotional deal with Boxer, since they're the exclusive provider of content to Sky, and that's how that came about.
And are you happy with how that's gone in terms of they've clearly come up with a strategy to build Claressa for a UK audience, build Savannah for the UK audience, and then eventually, hopefully in the summer, put the two together? Has it all gone as planned?
Yeah, no, I have a great working relationship with Ben Shalom and John Wischum from Boxer. It's been a very good experience. And obviously the next most important step is to build up towards that fight, and obviously the fight itself. But from our first fight and from Claressa coming out now, it's been a very good experience, and we enjoy working together, for sure.
And you said a while back you thought that Savannah needed to go and fight in the US to build up her profile. Do you still think that would be beneficial in the build up to this fight, or are you now comfortable that it just goes ahead as it is?
Sometimes when you wait for big fights for too long, they don't happen, and we've seen that so many times with so many great fighters in our time. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and De La Hoya has several guys that he could have fought, and then even Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya, and all the different guys, and Mike Tyson, and the list goes on and on and on. So you have to make the big fights when they're boiling hot. And Claressa and Savannah are both at the peaks of their careers. They're very popular with the Sky brand behind them. I feel that this is a mega fight and a mega event, and to have a major broadcaster in the UK support this fight is really tremendous. And there's going to be a major broadcaster from the United States that's going to be supporting this fight as well. So before Claressa fought in the UK, I did think that it would be beneficial for Savannah to come out here to have a fight. But, things change. And now that Savannah has scored such an impressive win over Femke Hermans, and Claressa was over there, I think the table is set for both of them to come and meet each other in this fantastic fight.
Do you think it could be the first pay-per-view women's fight in the UK?
It could be, yeah. I think it warrants it. I mean, obviously, I'm in the United States. You guys have a better feeling for it, but it seems to be there's a lot of press, a lot of interest. When I go on social media, you see so many people talking about it, from boxing fans to celebrities to trainers. It's really incredible the interest that this fight has gotten, and with the Sky platform and the reach that it can have, I think that would be very interesting if it's a pay-per-view fight.
Mm. And are you worried about Claressa having to come over to the UK, given that some of our judging decisions have been awful in the not too distant past? Have you got any concerns about being an away fighter in a British ring?
There's always concern about that, for sure. from our experience on February 5th, the BBFC did a great job with officiating the fight. And, we're going to do our best. And this is such a big event that, if there's anything that's not proper, that would lend such a black eye on the growth of women's boxing. So I really believe that everyone is going to do the best they can. And it was going to be a good, as neutral atmosphere as could be, being that Claressa's coming to the UK. And I do believe that the right officials will be put into place to make sure that the right person wins the fight.
Yeah. And what differences have you seen generally in women's boxing since you started being involved in? Is it easier now to pitch a woman's fight than it was, say, 5 years ago, to kind of a major promoter and broadcast?
Sure. Well, so most importantly is that broadcasters are interested in now. Really, the first broadcaster that showcased Claressa was Showtime, and I'm very grateful for that. And we had a chance to tell a story to the U.S. audience. And with each fight, it's very interesting because with each fight, we distribute the fight internationally. Some countries say no, we don't take women's boxing, and then with each fight, more and more countries would sign on, and more countries would televise women's fights. And then you've seen different broadcasters that play in the United States, ESPN, The Zone, show women's fights, and it's great. It's great for the sport. I do believe that Claressa is the one that's at the head of the pack, and the reason why all these things are happening. But it's wonderful, and that's what she's here to do. And because she was willing to fight tough competition from very early in her career and fight the best, that's the reason why this happened. And the Savannah Marshall fight is going to move the needle to the next level.
Yeah. And also, it hopefully will happen around the same time, albeit a little bit later, than Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
Yeah, a great fight as well.
Yeah. So, headline in Madison Square Garden. Incredible, really, that you could end up with those two almost back to back in the summer.
Yeah. Well, that fight is happening April 30th.
Yeah.
Katie Taylor and Serrano. But it's a great fight in Madison Square Garden in New York City. Great to see these two very talented and capable fighters fighting each other and getting the respect and the recognition that they deserve.
It is. Have you got a favorite for that fight?
They're both wonderful people outside the ring and wonderful fighters inside the ring. I just hope for a great competitive fight, and may the best fighter win.
And what about, finally, for Claressa, if she were to fight Savannah, I think the impression over in the UK is that if she fights Savannah and beats her, and probably if Savannah beats Claressa the other way around, there isn't an awful lot left for each of them to do after that. Would Claressa go back to MMA, for instance, or has she still got other ambitions within boxing? Would she go even further up the weight divisions?
She has other ambitions in boxing. She may go further up. She may come down. It's unusual for fighters to come down in weight. But Claressa started her professional career at 168. She went down to 160. Then she went down to 154 and won the Undisputed title there. So Claressa's chasing history, and she's doing what she got to do to make sure that the fights with the best fighters happen. We tried to do a fight with Cecilia Brækhus way back when, and Claressa was willing to come down to 147, but Cecilia, didn't want to do it. And I only say this just to kind of tell the story. About a year and a half ago, there were some rumors of Laila Ali calling out Claressa.
Yeah.
And, they got some traction. We reached out to Laila. She didn't want to do it. We never even heard back from her. We made her a very, very generous offer. Never heard back from her. And it's fine. She should stay retired. She's a great athlete and did a lot for the sport. But so we'll see what happens. This is a big fight, and our focus is on it. And there's other great things for Claressa to do, but the focus is on Savannah Marshall.
But there's still, post-Savannah, not to take the focus away from it, but the ambitions still lie within boxing, not elsewhere.
Yes, she wants to be a two-sport star, and she will come back to MMA, I believe. But, for the last several months, all the conversations have been about boxing. All she does is boxing training, and that's where her focus is 100% on that.
Excellent. Well, I know you can't give us any dates, and I'm assuming there probably are none agreed as yet, but hopefully, Dmitry, we'll see you over here in the UK come the summer. Hopefully it'll be a mega fight that the whole of the UK, the US, and the whole world can get behind. And as you said earlier, kind of raises the whole of the sport, and not just those two individuals. And
well, and I want to finish off with saying this. Boxing, more than other sports, drives social change more than, and is more memorable than other games, than other athletic events. So I really believe this is going to be in line with Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Leonard versus Hearns, Leonard versus Hagler, De La Hoya versus Chavez, De La Hoya versus Trinidad, Pacquiao versus Mayweather. This is going to go in line as one of the greatest sporting boxing events of all time. And it's going to be a mega, mega event, and I'm very excited about it. And look forward to the build-up and obviously to the fight itself. Thank you so much for having me.
The build-up itself will be special as much as the fight. I mean, there's two characters, two people from, as you said earlier, clashing backgrounds. It'll be fantastic from start to finish, and what should be a tremendous fight when they eventually meet.
No doubt about it.
So, Dmitry, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We'll be keeping an eye on it in the UK, I promise you. And we look forward to being made and happening.
I'll see you soon, man. Thank you.
You take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
man.